Most people that are religious typically come from poor communities. It does not surprise me that many of these pastors that are black are also civil rights people that support the politically correct system and the lies that the far left media tries to instill upon us. It does not surprise me that the Nation of Islam is mostly composed of African American Muslims. It does also not surprise me that these people do not come from the wealthier communities or the fairly middle-class communities. In fact, the poorest countries of the world are more religious. Look at the poor countries in Central America or Africa. It doesn't matter if it's Christian or Muslim or non-Abrahamic. It is still the same trend. If you look at the Arab states where there's millions of poor Arab Muslims, yes, they are more likely to be Islamic. And it does not surprise me that a 33-year-old Latino anarchist got screwed by the Roman government because of the fact that he tried to promote these far-left views, such as supporting a community, or opposing those who make money, or looking down upon those who value wealth, and looking down upon those who have a profit incentive. And the Catholic Church has a history of taking away social and economic freedom. In fact, the main difference between America and the countries south of it is that the countries south of it are of a Catholic background, which historically represents poor groups. They represent communities that do not historically value the individual. But when you look at countries like the United States, Canada, Britain, Norway, and Sweden, these countries historically are freer. These countries historically were better than, per se, Spain and Portugal. In comparison, doesn't mean Sweden's the best country. Sweden has a corrupt government too. But the governments in countries like Italy and Greece, they are also of a more poor background. In fact, the Orthodox Christian Church is really the Eastern Catholic, Holy Catholic, and the original Catholic Church. And they also have terrible issues when you look at the countries of Russia and Ukraine and East European countries. So of course Greece itself also has a very corrupt government. And it doesn't surprise me that the Philippine government is corrupt. It doesn't surprise me that other religions that follow this path will lead to a lifestyle with no individuality, social or economic. This explains why the far-left groups want to pander to religious groups such as Islamic extremists. And even though some of them are not socialists at all, they're in the same league as people who are. If all the people who hate freedom are here and all the people who love it are here, the people who hate it are all going to be in this one jar, even if they're opposed. Iran does not have a communist party, yet they are supported by Russia, the same country that supports North Korea. Meanwhile, on our freer side, we have countries like America and Canada that support freer countries. And apparently, Venezuela, a popular socialist country supported by Iran, is not on this side. No matter which religion it is, if they're going to be on the far left, if they're going to oppose individuality, freedom, liberty, justice, they are going to end up on this side. And those who support these things, those who support true fairness, will be on this side. Fairness, which, by the way, does not come from absolute equality. Fairness doesn't exist in countries like this. It exists in countries where people have the freedom to do what they want to do, and where freedom is not taken away from citizens. The freest states have the most liberty. The freest states have inequality too. But it's fair that these people who make money in this system actually deserved it, while in this system, they didn't do anything to deserve it at all. The countries with the most liberty, and the countries with the most freedom, and the countries with the most power in the world, the countries that actually have money, the highest GDP rates in the world, are the richer countries with the freer economies. If you look at South Korea itself is millions of times richer than North Korea. And it doesn't surprise me that North Korea is a country that will affiliate itself with all the bad guys in politics, all these far left groups, all the communist countries, socialist countries, you name it. Of course, North Korea would be willing to support Iran, because to them, this idea of having no freedom is something that their government likes. Their people don't. North Koreans might not be happy about their government. Persians don't like the Iranian government. But these governments are aligned because they hate freedom, they hate liberty, and they support tyranny. And people who support tyranny should never be supported by the United States of America. And people who want to confiscate guns, who want to rip off people's money, who want to steal people's money through high taxes. There are the same people who want to take away all those other freedoms. They'll take away your freedom of speech, they'll take away your freedom to think for yourself, the freedom of expression. All these freedoms do not exist in these countries. But countries that are westernized, countries like the United States of America, are millions of times more freer than these countries. Now, it doesn't mean that the United States is the world's freest country. In fact, we lose freedoms on a daily basis because our corrupt government is slowly taking them away from us, usually in the form of a bureaucracy. But the difference is we haven't gotten to this shithole that this side of the spectrum is on, where they are so freedom lacking that they don't even understand how to live a Western life. They don't understand how to live a life where you can actually do what you want to. In fact, people on this side historically are more likely to commit suicide. The suicide rate in Europe is actually highest in East European countries such as Ukraine, a country that was actually number 157 for economic opportunity in the world. This country has a suicide rate higher than Russia. In fact, I'm ashamed of the fact that my parents are from this country. And I'm ashamed of the fact that this government is so corrupt and has such a big bureaucracy that people literally can't do anything. And this would drive people into committing suicide or anything else. Crime rates are even higher in those communities too. Crime rates are higher in communities where people don't have economic freedom. Because in communities where people don't have economic freedom, they are more likely to steal things to get what they want. They are more likely to have to steal things at this point, because how else are they going to get what they want to? How are they going to get food if they don't have the money for it? This cycle of poverty and paying for the poor and making them more poor simply goes down the drain, because it just creates an endless cycle of convincing people to be poor, thus making more people, thus making the situation worse. This is an issue in most countries. And it's going to become an issue in the United States. It's going to become an issue in Canada, Britain, and all those other Western countries. It's going to even be an issue in Western countries in Asia. It will eventually be an issue in the Koreas, too. South Korea might not be rich in the future. I feel like every country is slowly going to digress into this system of bureaucracies. America is not the most unbureaucratic society ever. We are very bureaucratic, and we are actually more than $15 trillion in debt, even though we are one of the world's richest countries. And it is important for us to keep our freedoms and protect ourselves from corrupt, tyrannical governments who want to confiscate every bit of freedom as they possibly can. And if you live in America and you're watching this, don't let the government take away your freedom.